here is Rose from the Netflix documentary. And one of the interesting things they did in the documentary was to not have an actress voice over Gabby's journal entries, but to use AI to recreate her voice, which is really, that must be somewhat chilling and maybe weirdly comforting for you guys in a way to hear. I'll ask you about it, but let me just play this soundbite where it's a Gabby voice AI recreation of one of her journal entries, and the clip features her friend Rose.
I think there was a moment before her van life that she started to open her eyes.
Brian, you know how much I love you. Just please stop crying and stop calling me names. You in pain is killing me.
Gabby was constantly over at my house and kind of getting more frustrated. And the more her and I were together and talking and having a good time, she actually felt more independent. And that's when he was like, okay, I gotta do something to change this. Let me isolate her. If I get her away from her job, I get her away from her friend, she only has me. And then next thing you know, they were gone.
Tara, that is really chilling.
It's hard to hear. We have so many videos of her voice, so it's slightly off. So it was kind of weird to hear it for the first time. Again, we have so many videos. It's always hard to watch her, but I love seeing her. So I'm glad we have those memories. I'm glad we have all those videos of her. Again, it was just weird to hear her voice in AI because it's slightly off, but it does sound a lot like her. So
when you see the increase and you hear that messaging, please stop crying. And the documentary shows a lot of those. Like there were numerous messages by Gabby or by him, Brian, acknowledging his tears and how upset he was and how dark he was, and Gabby blaming herself. And even when she writes about how he loved her, there are statements like, I don't deserve his love. Like he's this sort of vaunted guy who she's so lucky to have. Meanwhile, I feel like, you guys probably know much more about it at this point, but to me, the whole thing feels like an emotional manipulation by him of her.
Well, abuse is a process. It's not just one event. And it normally starts with them charming you, love bombing you, and then it slightly turns. And they'll only show that behavior, and every relationship is different, but they'll start showing those behaviors after the relationship has been going on for quite a while. And that's when you start seeing, because you always believe that they're going to go back to that love bombing, and you always believe that try to see the good in them. So that's part of the manipulation. And Brian definitely was doing that to Gabby. And it doesn't always start physical either. It could start, again, with the manipulation, the financial. And it could be a slow process. It can be a faster process. But once they have you, that's when I feel like it will shift.
Their true colors come out. There was another interesting piece in the Netflix doc about his mother, Roberta, who I must say comes across as a villain in this thing. But before we get to that, can we talk about what happened, Joe, when Gabby went down to Florida? You guys, as I understand, she was raised in Long Island, but then she moved down to Florida to be with Brian, and she was with him and his parents. And the mother started off fine toward Gabby, but this is before the van trip. She took a turn, and there's speculation on why she took a turn in the piece, Joe.
Yeah. So I guess I have to start it off with, in my opinion. But other than that, it was almost like speculation, but a jealousy that was going on where Brian was giving all his attention to Gabby and not to his mom, and that you could see on how things changed and how she was very critical of Gabby and getting on her for things that her own son would do. So, and then you had that letter that she wrote, which was just,
the burn after reading letter. We'll get to what the mother did write a very bizarre letter to her son.
Letter, right? That was a little rough there to I don't know how a parent writes that to a child and thinks it's funny, but apparently they did. So
to me, it's interesting just because now you have a window into this being a very unwell young man. And so the parents are obviously a source of interest too. And the mother's jealousy over a girlfriend is odd and strange. And you see Gabby texts in this piece too. Once again, Roberta seems mad at her, and Brian acknowledging she gets very dark. This happened throughout my childhood. Just be patient. It passes. So it's still a mystery there, but we're gleaning more from this piece than we had prior about these parents who were totally uncooperative in the search for Gabby and appear, based on what I saw in the film, to have known right from the get-go that he killed her. I mean, that seems pretty clear that they got on the phone. I mean, I'll bring you in on this, Brian, as the attorney. It appears from the phone logs that the parents called their lawyer, that they lawyered up immediately after getting a call from Brian in the Grand Tetons within what looks like hours of Gabby dying.
Yeah, all indications are that they were aware of what was going on and immediately took steps to protect Brian rather than look after Gabby or her parents' interests. And it was really unfortunate.
Right. So, because it looks like you guys reveal that we believe it was the next day after we believe the murder happened. I think that we believe the murder was 8/27 of 21, and that on 8/28, he called his parents, had an hour-long conversation with his mother, and then the next call the parents made was to a lawyer. And then we know shortly thereafter, Brian returned home to Florida without Gabby, which no one knew. And you guys, meanwhile, Joe and Tara, are frantic. Eventually you get frantic. At the beginning, you're like, I haven't heard from Gabby. Where's Gabby? She's kind of, she's whatever. She's in the desert. And then it switches over to, no, this is not normal. And that's when you brought in the national media. And ultimately, you kept going to Brian's parents saying, have you guys heard from them? And they were completely uncooperative. And we now know we're housing Brian, we believe, also knew what he had done, or at least that Gabby was no longer with us. And we're trying to cover it up or hide it or do something other than the right thing. So can you just take us back to that time, Joe? And it was you, was it not, who brought in the national media to try to get attention on Gabby's whereabouts?
I want to clarify something. So they hired an attorney in Long Island. They sent him the check, and then that attorney actually got the attorney out in Wyoming. Their attorney on Long Island was looking for an attorney. So, and their attorney in Long Island is actually the one that signed the retainer in the one for Wyoming.
Why is that important?
Because I felt like they were hiding.
So I guess it shows that they knew, again, my opinion, it shows that they knew where things happened. Remember when Gabby first went missing and we were frantic and bringing in the national media, we had from Wyoming all the way down to Florida. So you're talking to 2,500 miles, at that point, where they had hired an attorney in Wyoming, to represent Brian in case things went sideways. So
how did they know to hire an attorney in Wyoming?
Yep.
If Gabby just ran off and she was gone, because that's what they said in the deposition, that Gabby just ran off, she was gone. But he needed an attorney. So if they were breaking up, why would they need an attorney specifically in Wyoming?
Mm-hmm. Right, because what you guys knew in the beginning was that he's home. Suddenly you find out he's home and the van is here, but Gabby is not here. And so is it the case that they never spoke to you? Like obviously you were calling, and Nikki, Gabby's mom, was calling, and her husband, Jim, was calling. So did they ever speak to you?
No. I've never spoken to them. Matter of fact, the first time I heard them say anything was at the deposition. So
in the civil case you brought against them?
Yes, for the civil case, because we wanted answers. That was the reason why that was done. And once we got the answers, we weren't going to get anything else from them at that point. So it really is what it is. But when we first went to the national media, her story wasn't picked up as fast as people really think. It was once the Moab video went out, I think that's when her story really blew up because, you know, I guess in previous interviews I had said that it was like maybe she's pretty or it's her color or it's the story. That's why her story went out that, as far as it did. But after watching the Netflix documentary and seeing the reaction afterwards, I realize now that it wasn't just her color or the way she looked. It was just that so many other people see themselves in that position and, really just empathize with Gabby because they've been there before. And not just here in the States, all over the country. I mean, all over the planet. So it's just such a prevalent problem. And the fact that people now are doing these videos on how they survived and how they got out and all that stuff, I'd love for that to continue to inspire others to do it. If someone feels safe and comfortable enough to where they can share their story and inspire others to do it, I think that's going to help get rid of the shame from the victim and really put it where it belongs, on the abuser.
That's so right. That's exactly it. I cannot imagine your frustration while you're trying to find your child, and the parents of the young man she was traveling with just won't respond to you. They just won't. They won't say anything, which is why eventually you called the police.
You know what's really good, though? I'll tell you this, is all the support that we got. All right. So anything that we wanted to say publicly, but our attorneys told us we weren't allowed to. Sorry, Brian, I love you. Was everyone else said it for us. Like, we didn't have to defend ourselves or come out and say something, that's not accurate, because people did it for us. And the support that we got was, I mean, unfathomable. So again, that's why we have the foundation now to help out as many people as we can, because everyone helped us. So we're trying to repay that.
It was eventually, you did call the police and got attention via the media. And the police went to Brian Laundrie's parents' home, where he'd been staying with them in Florida. And the video of some of what happened appears in the Netflix flick. Let's watch a little bit in SOT 6.
Last time that you saw Brian and Gabriel?
Well, Brian is here.
Brian is here?
Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say.
And that's all that you're saying?
Yeah, we have an attorney.
And just to let the detective know, is Gabriel here?
No.
She's not here. Is this her vehicle? Her van?
It's both of them.
I know you've already said you don't want to speak. Well, if you guys know anything, it would let the parents at ease and go from there.
Well, we don't know anything.
Okay.
So,
I mean, anything that you guys would be able to give them is any type of help. Last time your son saw her, anything like that. Am I able to talk to your son? The other officer said
he's not going to talk to me.
I mean, as a parent, you wouldn't want to know where it happened with yours.
I understand what you're saying, but thank you.
I mean,
No, we're not going to.
it makes it very odd, don't you think? From my point of view,
Well,
Chris.
goodbye. For now, you could call our attorney and give your phone number.
I mean, when did you see that video for the first time, you two?
Last year.
Last year, maybe. I don't really
So
recall
it was-
when we actually saw it, but we did not see that video right away.
Okay, so it was after you knew what had happened with Gabby, but you must have been told by the police the parents won't get, it's not that just that we couldn't reach them. It's not that they said they don't know. It's that they're refusing to talk to us. And your reaction when you heard that was what?
So the night of September 11th, when we finally got Gabby reported missing, we got a call from Nikki. She's the one who got her reported missing up in New York, because
Gabby's mom.
We were having a difficult time getting her reported missing. We were calling Northport police. We were calling Utah, because that was our last known location where Gabby was. So we were having a difficult time, but when Nikki finally was able to report her missing, she had called us immediately after and told us that Gabby is not there, Brian is home, and they lawyered up. And that's all we knew at that point in time. That was the most chilling feeling. It was a nightmare that we were like, wait, what do you mean? Because at first we really thought that they were still together, and maybe they just were off the grid for a little while and we just couldn't get in touch. We were looking for both of them.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, just text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.